Chapter 2. Leaving behind a grieving husband and child. We must confront them. High Chancellor Thomas wound down after droning on almost an hour. Some of his speech had been about mother. At least the words Lady Eleanor were spoken often, but the person they described, dutiful parent, loyal citizen, steadfast spouse, sounded more like the High Chancellor than like my mother. Part of the speech had been about dying, but more about giving allegiance to Kira and its ruler, King Gerald, Prince Charmont, and the entire royal family. Father reached for my hand. His palms was moist and hot as hydra swamps. I wished I had been allowed to stand with Mandy and the other servants. I pulled out of his grasp and moved a step away. He closed the distance between us and took my hand again. Mother's casket was made of a gleaming mahogany carved with designs of fairies and elves. If only fairies could leap out of the woods and cast a spell and bring her back to life. And another one sent to send father away. Or maybe my fairy godmother would do that, if I knew where to find her. When the High Chancellor finished, it was my task to close the casket so mother could be lowered into the grave. Father put his hands on my shoulders and pushed me forward. Mother's mouth was stern, the opposite of what it looked like in life, and her face was empty, which was awful. But worse was the creak of the coffin lid as the coffin lid went down, and the dry click when it closed, and the thought of mother packed away in a box. The tears I had swallowed all day erupted. I stood there before the whole court, crying in an infant's endless wails, unable to stop myself. Father pressed my face to his chest. Perhaps he appeared to be comforting me, but he was only trying to muffle my noise, which he couldn't muffle. He let go of me in a sharp whisper. He said, "Get away from here. Come back when you can be quiet." For once I was glad to obey. I ran. My heavy black gown tripped me and I fell. Before anyone could help me, I was off again, my knee and hands stinging. The biggest tree in the graveyard was a weeping willow, a crying tree. I plunged through the leaves and threw myself down, sobbing. Everyone called it losing mother, but she wasn't lost. She was gone, and no matter where I went, another town, another country, fairyland, or gnomes' caverns, I wouldn't find her. We never talked or laughed together, or swam in the river Locarno, or slid down the banisters, or played tricks on Bertha, or a million things. I cried myself and sat up. My gown had changed in front from black silk to brown dirt, as Mandy would have said. I was speckled. How much time had gone by? I had to go back. Father had told me that, and the curse was tugging me at me to obey. Outside the privacy of the tree, Prince Charmelot stood reading the tombstone. I had never been so near him before. Had he heard me cry? Although the prince was only 2 years older than me, he was much taller, and he stood just like his father, feet apart, hands behind his back, as though the whole country were passing by on review. He looked like his father too, although the sharp angles of King Gerald's face were softened in his sun. They each had 20 curls and swarthy skin. I had never been near enough to the king to know whether he also had a sprinkling of freckles across his nose, surprising on such dark features. "Cousin of mine," the prince said, gesturing to the tombstone. "Never liked him." "I liked your mother." He started walking back towards the tomb. Did he expect me to come with him? Was I supposed to maintain a suitable distance from his royal self? With enough room for a carriage to pass between us, I walked at his side. He moved closer. I saw he'd been crying too, although he stayed upright and clean. "You can call me Shar," he told me suddenly. "Everyone else does." I could. We walked in silence. "My father calls me Shar too," he added. "The king." "Thank you," I said. "Thank you, Shar," he corrected. Then, "Your mother used to make me laugh. Once at the banquet, Chancellor Thomas was making a speech. While he talked, your mother moved her napkin around. I saw it before your father crumpled it up. She arranged it on the edge in a shape of the chancellor's profile, with the mouth open and the chin stuck out. It would have looked exactly like him if he were the color of a blue napkin. I had to leave without dinner so I could go outside and laugh. We were halfway back. It was starting to rain. I could make out one figure, small in the distance, standing at my mother's grave. "Father, where did everyone go?" I asked Shar. "They all left before I came to find you," he said. Did you want them to wait? He sounded worried, as perhaps he should have made them stay. No, I don't want any of them to wait, I answered, meaning father could have gone too. I know all about you, Shar announced after we had taken a few more steps. You do? How could you? Your cook and our cook meet at the market. She talks about you. He looked sideways at me. Do you know much about me? No, Mandy had never said anything. What do you know? I know you can in, in, intimidate, in, I know you can intimidate people just like as Lady Eleanor could. Once you imitated your manservant to his face, and he wasn't sure whether he was a servant or you were. You make up your own fairy tales as you drop things and trip over things. I know you once broke a whole set of dishes. I slipped on ice. Ice chips you spilled before you slipped on them, he laughed. It was a ridiculous laugh. It was a happy laugh, a good joke. An accident, I protested. But I smiled too, trembling after so much crying. We reached father, who bowed. Thank you, your highness, for accompanying my daughter. Shar returned the bow. Come, Eleanor, father said. Eleanor, no one had ever called me that before, even though it was my real name. Eleanor had always been mother, and always would be. Ella, I'm Ella, I said. Ella then, come Ella. He bowed to the prince and climbed into the carriage. I had to go. Shar handed me in. I don't know whether to give him my hand or to let him push me up in the elbow. He wound up in the middle of my arm, and I had to grasp the side of the carriage with the other hand for balance. When the door closed, I caught my skirt, and there was a loud ripping sound. Father winced. I saw Shar through the windows, laughing again. I turned the skirt and found a gash about 6 inches above the hem. Bertha would never be able to make this smooth. I arranged myself as far away from father as possible. He was staring out the window. A fine affair, all Farrell came, everyone who was in the counts anyways. He said, as though mother's funeral had been a tournament or a ball. It was fine. It wasn't fine. It was awful. I said, how can mother's funeral be fine? The prince was friendly to you. He liked mother. Your mother was beautiful. His voice was regretful. I'm sorry she's dead. Nathan flicked the whip and the carriage began to move.